Hello, and welcome to the latest installment in our UXDX online series. I hope you're as excited as I am for the talks we have today, but before we jump into those, I want to give a really quick introduction to UXDX and why we host these sessions. So at UXDX, our kind of motto is that the world is full of bad software. And what I mean by that is not software that doesn't meet the specification, but software that's clunky and difficult to use. So I always use the example of banking apps. I have one of those digital first banks and a very traditional bank. And technically they can do the same features, but they're worlds apart in terms of the usability. And therefore I know which one I prefer doing business with and do a lot more with. Now, our mission at UXDX is to help companies build an environment that can't build bad software, because I don't think it's down to the quality of the teams or the people or their motivation and effort. I think it's the environment that people are working in that determines whether they're going to have a really amazing usable product and one that's clunky and hard to use. And how we go about that is really trying to help companies shift from projects, waterfall projects where you're locking in a scope up front, to truly autonomous product teams where you iterate on it and make sure that you're getting the product just right. And that's really easy to say and really hard to do in practice, because everything is built around kind of upfront designs and upfront kind of budgeting and sign-offs and everything like that. So it's a lot harder to do than say. And these talks are there to try help you move along that journey. Now, no talk is going to talk about the entire change, but people are going to share how they're doing things and what they're doing differently. And what I hope you're going to get out of this is questions. So when you're listening, think of any questions you have, you want to understand a bit more, or you'd like to kind of dig a bit deeper. Our speakers would love to hear your questions at the end. So please write them in on whichever platform you're watching this on, and I'll put those questions through to the speakers. But that's enough about me. You're not here to listen to me talk. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this evening, who's Evan Canarozzi, who's the product design lead at Ernst & Young. And Evan will be talking about making product design work in the real world. So I'd like to welcome Evan to the stage. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Rory. Great to be here. Thanks for having us, UXDX. I am Evan Canarozzi. I'm a product designer. And honestly, the only thing you need to know about me right now is that I love what I do. So because I love what I do, I'm really excited to get through a ton of information today. So the next 25 minutes, I want to talk about the realities of what it means to be a designer today, going into 2026, not just with AI, but also with real life team constraints. And my session is called, Okay, Cool, What Do We Actually Do? Because it's focused around real life scenarios day to day within my design team on how we operate. So the first half, I want to talk about building an operating system behind your decisions, right? So what this is basically how we can think about all of these parameters of being a designer and narrow that down to what we're good at and what we love, right? So designers are getting pulled in so many different directions right now. We're being told to master Figma, understand code, adopt AI, think like the business, move faster, ship cleaner, all of these things that can be overwhelming. How do we narrow that down to a working path that works for you? And the second half, I want to show these methods and put them into practice, how my team operates day to day and how we're using this operating system in our mindset to make sure we can achieve these goals and what reality looks like within design teams at big companies or small companies. So let's get into it. Let's build our operating system going into 2026. So as I said earlier, there's an explosion of AI tools out there. I think everybody's up to speed in terms of what we can do and the capacity we have to build full-end applications, back-end support, AI integrated in minutes. It's incredible, right? But is that for everybody? No, it's not. Not necessarily for every work stream, right? So whether you're fluent in Cursor now, you're a vibe coder, you're using tools like V0 or Replit, that is great for stakeholder prototypes. That might even work for backend support, like we mentioned, but does it really work for every person? And the answer is not necessarily, right? So what I want to do is I want everyone to kind of think about what designer they want to be going into 2026. Are you, and I have these 5 categories to kind of try to help that thinking, right? So these 5 categories kind of describe all of the parameters of the design spectrum and where you guys might fit. So there could be someone called a builder, right? This is someone that stays close to engineering, understand how products are actually built, technical feasibility in mind. There's the translator, which focuses on business alignment, speaks with the leadership teams, works closely with the PMs, right? There's the orchestrator. That's someone that maybe weaves in AI into every daily workflow. They can help reduce friction, speed things up with vibe coding, maybe speed up user research. Craftsperson. This is someone who obsesses over quality and execution. I'm personally in this bucket because I'm still a traditional Figma user, and I'm still using that as my latest design tactics to still understand how we're building from a product perspective, but also still understanding user needs, right? And then there's the generalist, right? This is somebody that does everything. Not ideal. It's a lot of processing power, but again, it's someone that may try to juggle all of these areas across the design spectrum, but we're not looking to be a generalist. What we want to do is we want to narrow this down to maybe 3 or under categories, right? Think about what works best for you and your team. Think about what you love within the design space, because at the end of the day, we have to remember we're in this field for a reason, right? In the creative industry, you should love a good amount of the stuff that you do, even when we're overwhelmed and we're busy at work. It's still fun, right? So focus on what you're good at and what you love. In my case, with our team, I consider myself a builder. I know a little bit about code. I like to keep engineering in mind. I also love speaking with the business, right? So I stay close to our PMs and I help make or frame design decisions around outcomes. And I'm a craftsperson. As I said, huge Figma guy. I understand vibe coding tools out there do a lot of the same things, but right now, what works for my team, realistically, we still use Figma day to day. Another part of our operating system is confirming the death of the delivery guy, right? So as you guys could remember, when we started early in the UX UI days, a lot of the times we were just screen pushers. We would just throw work over the wall, wouldn't question anything. Fortunately, I feel like that era is finally done. We are now thought leaders. We are taught to question things. And the types of questions that we should be asking now are things like, who is this actually for if it's feature-based, right? How many people does this really impact? And what changes if we don't build this, right? So real examples are if we're in stakeholder meetings, a lot of the time, some of these feature-based questions come up. They may not be merited for an actual feature, right? So it's something that we could think about. And that only comes up if we question or push back a little bit, right? So that kind of alleviates some of our backlog. Maybe this isn't dependent on being a feature. And it's also good to frame this in the sense of not every problem deserves a feature. So it's always good to question things. Another part of our operating system is speak the language of the room, right? So getting caught up with all this explosion of AI and seeing all these LinkedIn posts of like these cool ways on how our designers are now building things with backend support and everything speeding up. There's some things that don't change, and language is one of them. Language really matters. So even in today's climate, with all the advances we have with technology, it's really important to kind of skip that UX term talk sometimes, especially if we're talking with end users or stakeholders, because we want to be transparent, we want to be honest, and we're looking for better outcomes for them, right? So stakeholders don't really care about how smart we sound, right? They care about outcomes, they care about revenue, and how can our teams work faster, meeting their standards, not our own, right? We actually want users to spend less time on our application, not more. We want quicker happy paths. We want to get them in and out, understand the context, understand the goals. And that helps when we actually frame language in a way that they can understand, that's not considered too technical, right? So an example of this is very typical term in UX is conducting usability tests, right? In our frame, we're thinking about not testing, but having conversations. Because at the end of the day, that's actually what we're really doing. We're just having conversations with these people, right? So it kind of fails when we turn it into a performance. So this is about dropping the scripts, dropping the checkbox mindset, and just listening to people. That doesn't change. Even with the advancements in technology, the way that we're talking to other humans doesn't change. Real insight comes from honest conversations, not perfectly worded tasks. And an example of that could be, think about if you're a UXer and you need to get some validation on a feature that you're working on. Sometimes we'll send out invites or calendar invites for something that we need to test. And we might put in the subject line, usability testing session, Q1 feature validation. Hi, Erica, we're conducting a usability test to evaluate whatever, right? That they may not even get to the body of the email before they brush it off. So having that empathy to understand that these guys are busy, right? Especially depending on the quarters, they may not have the time to give us what we need for feedback and meet our own UX deadlines, right? So a real talk could be something like, tell me how you really get your work done, 30-minute chat. Just an example as the subject line. And then in the body, writing something like, we're working on improving part of the product. We love to hear how you really use it today. Something that resonates more with them, not just our scripted UX talk. And let me go back a second. Another part is PM partnership. This is a big one, right? What we want to do is we want to make friends with our product managers. So what we actually do is we want to make their wins, we want to make our wins their wins, right? We really want to help them shine. And to do that, we want to prove our output, meaning we want to prove to our PMs that with the advances in Figma and the latest design tools out there, we can provide quicker turnaround times. We could do prototypes that used to take days down to minutes, right? We have the technology. We can say yes more often, and that's investing in our PMs to let them know that we're able to provide better outputs, meet them where they are, and deliver consistently and rebuild that trust a bit, right? So this isn't just theory, right? This is how we get our PMs to invest in us so that we can invest in them, right? So an example of, and this is realistic to how our team operates, is before we had strong relationships made with our PMs, the UX teams would gather requirements led by the PM, but we would do all the work, right? As expected, that's our job. And then in the beginning of these meetings, sometimes UX would be less involved in feature requests from the jump. And we'd also sometimes fall into the category of the delivery guy, right? If you guys remember, I mentioned that pixel pushers throwing work over the wall. Sometimes because of time constraints, that would still happen. But after that strong relationship is made, PMs and BAs gather requirements for us by their choice, proactively. We didn't ask them to do this. So our team actually takes the initiative to do Miro boards, doing all the groundwork, problem statements. They'll do meeting notes, they'll gather requirements for us, and they'll deliver it to us so we can review it and correct it in real time collaboratively. So that's a huge win for us. And it's because we have that stronger relationship now, right? We're now getting roped in earlier in UX calls, and the PM looks at UX more as a valuable source for the business, not just design. There's debate, there's pushback, but there's also respect. And that's important, right? That middle layer of respect is always there. And it's also because we are showing, not just telling. We are giving them some design control so they can give us some business control. Okay, so as I said, the first half is to talk about building this operating system. So we've defined the type of designer we want it to be, right? We've narrowed down that list of 5 to maybe 3 or under. Who are you? Are you a builder? Are you an orchestrator? Are you more involved on the dev side? Are you a vibe coder? Are you a leadership person where you want to get closer to the PM and the business to understand things like ROI and how we can make a bigger impact reaching business goals? That's up to you, right? But the point is we want to avoid being a generalist. We want to really narrow down on what you love, what you're good at, and where that sits within the design spectrum. The next part, we confirm depth of the delivery guide, right? That thinking is out, thankfully. We are not pixel pushers. We are thought leaders, right? We are taught to question things and we push context. We've defined language, right? So we don't always have to speak in UX tech terms. It's okay to be transparent, have honest language, and our users would thank us for that, right? And the business as well. And the last piece is PM is your friend, right? So we've convinced our PMs that we trust them, they should trust us, and we're able to provide quicker outputs, quicker prototypes, meet them where they are, and they'll in turn give us things like requirement gatherings, set up digital whiteboards with all that work mapped out for us because of that investment. Okay, now the second half starts. So this is the part where I'm going to show real examples of how our team operates with team constraints. And a lot of stuff I'm showing is fictitious data but the methods are real, and it's about how our team works together. So the design process may only work in theory, not on your calendar. So what does that mean? That means the perfect landscape left to right from, discovery through production, in theory, should have staffed team members, something like this, right? Where we have a research team, design team, and a launch team, right? So in this landscape, we're seeing from the left side, something should be very familiar with us is discovery, research, interviews. And then design phase could be prototype, test, iterations. Launch could be dev, UAT, and production, right? Something that everyone might have their own interpretation, but essentially does the same thing. Now with the integration of AI, AI impacts every phase of the life cycle. This is ideal, but it's also curated, right? So in an ideal world, what we've seen, and this is particularly to like perfectly written case studies or LinkedIn posts, where it's kind of crafted around like the fully staffed product team. There's little hiccups, ideal timelines, UX lifecycle steps are covered and validated, products are shipped, everybody's happy, right? And in a lot of cases, that's true. But what about when it's not true? So in this case, it's true because we cherry pick the success stories. We tell what's smooth, what's clean, what happens with strong outcomes. We don't really include the bumps or the detours. And then we post perfect case study, highlight the income or the outcomes that worked out really well and the wins, but we omit, the constraints and the trade-offs. So in reality, it might look something more like this, right? Where the design team is kind of narrowed down to covering all of these steps themselves, discovery through iterations, and then launch is still their own team, right? But AI isn't necessarily integrated in every step. It's cherry picked in terms of what works best for us. So how do we handle this workload when we're maybe not staffed to a fully, full researchers, full design, when we're maybe down to a smaller team for whatever reason? And how do we handle that workload, right? And in this unfiltered approach, before I move on to the next step, what's important to note here is this is realistic because a lot of teams might be smaller than you think. And how do they handle scope change and tighter deadlines? So if I were a hire manager and I was looking for a candidate, what I would want to see in a case study is what actually happened. I want to see the real story, the shifting scope, the tight deadlines, the trade-offs, and I want to see how that UX team came out of it, right? Because a lot of the times it's no one's fault of their own. Sometimes the reality is we don't have a fully staffed product team, but we still have to meet our requirements, right? So I want to see how that's actually crafted. And then what I would like to see post is an honest version of the work, what changed, what broke, what got cut, and how we still came out of it and met our deadlines. And that's where the methods kick in, which I'm about to show here, right? So left to right, ideally, everything like this should look the same, right? Discovery through launch, equal effort, equal time, everything should be even. Reality is it's not. They're measured differently, right? So what I'm showing here is each UX stage is actually measured a little bit differently, and I can kind of show how our team operates to meet these goals. So there's 3 categories here. If we look at this beige category, focused, meaning this is a measured phase where our team uses a mix of AI and humans to get that work done. There's also this other category called deep. This is for something that's more human-led. So in our case, it's for requirements. Little AI, mostly humans, crafted with the larger team. This is where we spend a lot of our time. And then this third box, this narrow one, which is this orange color, is lean. This is for something like refinement or an AI accelerated approach to get things done quickly and efficiently based on how we built that process. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about design and test first. This is a hybrid approach, right? As I said, this is measured as part humans, part AI on how we can actually get this stuff done from a design and test perspective. So if I go to an example here, again, this is fictitious data, but the methods are real. So the first thing that we do, which I hope resonates with a lot of you on this call, is how we're testing designs, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. We set up time with our end users. Step one would be maybe we schedule a call, 30 minutes. We typically state the problem statement and we show our designs, right? In this case, we have a UI, we're talking them through it, our typical scripts, make sure we don't get any bias feedback, and then we capture it. How we capture, we usually use Copilot, but very minimal usage of AI. How you guys capture feedback is up to you. That's how we do it. The second step is we're now actually leveraging AI agents, but in a little bit of a different way. We're using them to help build personas. So what my team does is after that call for the stakeholders or the end users to get that first human response for feedback, we build AI agents with the minds of 5, 6, 7, 8 business users, however many we can capture. And we configure these agents with the minds of the business so that we can leverage our own design work to test with those agents, right? So as I said, you can configure them however you want. You can support documentation. This can be used in Copilot or ChatGPT. Any LLM can do this. And try to stay as close as you can to actually thinking about how the business operates, right? So the context really matters. But this is how we set up our agents. It takes about 5 minutes, maybe less. The next is we test with the agent, right? So in this case, we have Grant. He's one of our AI agents. He's a business user. We've configured him to be, whatever. This is just an example, but a financial manager, aligning production schedules and quarterly reporting. He's our guy, right? And we test our designs with him through Copilot. And the way we test is twofold. So the first part is we make sure our prompts are always starting off with something like unbiased direct feedback to make sure we can get, the transparency from the agent. And then the second part is you can take it further and actually ask the agent to output it where highlight everything in green that was clear and provided clarity. And then the other part, highlight in red for any friction points. So we can kind of easily understand what went wrong with the design. And here's an example of an output, right? So the AI agent tested it, gave us a response on the screenshot of the UI that we uploaded. And we can see in green here the things that went well. And then we can see the red here on the things that were friction points. Maybe 2 minutes for that response, right? The last part is we compare AI to human response. So this is something you can use with the same agent. If you want to upload the responses you got from the human and say, now compare between what you reviewed and what the human reviewed and find commonalities. And for the most part, it does. So from all of those steps, from 2 to 5 for AI can be done in under 10 minutes. This used to take multiple meetings, multiple calls, multiple people. Now we're able to consolidate that down where we have 1 or 2 humans in the loop if that time permits, because we know our stakeholders are busy. AI does the rest of the grunt work for us, right? Now, this isn't bulletproof. We do try to test as much as we can with humans. And we fortunately have a lot of really good stakeholders that participate. But if we need anything in between or during sprints that kind of helps escalate this process, this is where our AI agents kick in. Okay, so we got 2 more here. Requirements. As I said, the one before, design a test, that's more AI-led. This one is more human-led. So our requirements are actually shown to us like this, which is really cool because our product manager would actually provide something like this for our UX team. So they'll give us the problem statement. They will give us imported table data with certain things that they find are critical for us to review. They'll have meeting notes. They'll even go far as doing affinity mapping. Now, I want to be important to note here, we don't ask them to do this. They proactively did this because of that partnership, as I said earlier, between us and the PMs, right? Which is awesome. So they come to us with affinity mapping because they're starting to understand the UX process, and they do this work for us that we can help review. We then take in turn, do journey mapping, whatever we have to do to kind of get this before we start designing. But I love the fact they actually take the initiative to do this work for us. So that's the requirements part. I don't have to go through the rest of it. I just kind of wanted to show the process of how those PMs actually work with the business and the BAs to get this to the UX team. And the last part is refine. So this is refine, meaning an AI accelerated approach but also a traditional method with how we operate in Figma. Now, when we're doing refining design, you can go two ways. One way is vibe code, which a lot of people are doing now, and I think that's great. But does it work for everybody? No, it doesn't. So for our case, we are not at the vibe coding stage yet. We may get there one day, but we still have a lot of control with how we use Figma. So within Figma, we have fully loaded Figma canvases. Everything from using 100% auto layout to variables, variants, stage components, interactive components, you name it, it's fully loaded. And our auto layout is using everything. So even the outermost container, as you can see in this screenshot, is auto layout so that our screens are completely responsive, right? So here's an example of a screen that we've, again, this is fictitious data. I designed this just for the demo, but this is a real life method on how we operate live on calls with PMs, where these screens are easily adjustable so we can adhere to feedback in real time. And these are set up with our stage components so that everything is set for us, easily fetchable. We even have meeting notes from the last call that we had. We have our problem statement. Everything is included. Our AI agents are here. So for example, if we have a grammatical issue or we need a content writer, we have our agent that we can link out to kind of ask additional questions as needed. But the point is we're able to pivot. So if we need to move any of this stuff around, if we need to duplicate tables, our tables are flexible. If we need to pivot anything around, all of this is at our fingertips so that we can show our PMs, we can adjust and adapt in real time, get them their answers quicker. So all of this maps to benefits for the PM, the dev, and the designers. Okay, so what do we learn here? We built an operating system. What kind of design do we want to be in 2026? Hint, it's not a pixel pusher. We've confirmed the death of the delivery guy, right? That era is done. We are not screen designers. We are thought leaders. We provide context. Language matters, right? We are trying to avoid UX jargon. We want to speak and have honest conversations, not tests. PM partnership. We invest in them. They invest in us. Fantasy versus reality. That is just showing the real examples that I just walked us through on what works for potentially smaller teams at large companies, and proven case studies, realistic case studies on what actually went wrong and how you guys fixed it. And then the sixth tier here is using AI selectively. No hype, use as needed. And let me leave you with this one question. What's one thing you're doing today to build trust with your PMs, your devs, or your design team? And that's it. Rory?
Thanks very much. That was great to see. Like you've obviously put a lot of effort and you've iterated a lot on your process of how and when you bring AI into the equation. I think I'm just going to go there with probably the most controversial one, which is your agents and this what people are calling synthetic users.
Yep.
So what has been your experience there? Do you think, because a lot of teams are saying, why don't we just go and we start running before we even talk to people, we run a few iterations through the synthetic users, refine it, and then start talking to people. So what's your kind of take there? Do you trust them enough? Is the feedback you're getting real and valid feedback, or is it kind of hallucinations?
Yeah, I would think that's the most controversial. So I agree with you on that. And I would say no, it's not completely trusted. That's why we always have a human in the loop. So it's a great question, Rory, because I personally don't feel like it's ever going to be left unattended. I think it's an enhancer, it's augment, it's not replacing. So we always start with a real person. Like I said in my step-by-step process, we start with a real person just to understand how they perceive it, because we want to still offer that real human empathy, right? What we do with the agents is comparing. So we use the agents to compare to the human responses to see if they line up. And a lot of the times they do, right? So that's why we kind of use it as an enhancer. But in my mind, it never replaces.
Right. But would you trust it for a first pass before you go out to users? Because the way you mentioned it was a kind of in parallel.
Right. Not a first pass, to be honest. I think and it could just be my hesitancy with AI. I think I would always want to start with a real person, not AI. Maybe I can change my mind one day, but right now my order is person first, AI second.
Yeah, as you said, you've got that builder part that was one of your profile, and you're still kind of at the Figma, as you mentioned, through the flow. So,
Yeah.
so maybe who knows? There's a 20-year-old out there who's doing everything with synthetic users. Maybe we're the old guys now.
Could be. We'll see how that changes, but we're still operating using some traditional methods.
Excellent. No, I love the example of how you're merging the new and the old, because I do think if you go completely AI, you're opening up a lot of risk.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Evan. I really enjoyed that, and I hope everybody out there did as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Rory.
So that brings us to our second session of this evening, and speaking will be Kristen Liu, who's a UX designer at Amazon, and Kristen will be talking about how AI reshapes the UX design pace. So I'd like to welcome Kristen to the stage. Over to you, Kristen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And great discussion and great content, Evan, because first of my question to this community, to this audience would be, do you think AI will replace us? So let me thank you for joining this time, everyone, especially if you are coming from the East Coast. It's freezing outside, but let's talk about the hot topic about AI. So I've been working in UX design for a couple of years. And last year, I kind of had a project starting from scratch. It's a complex enterprise project. I worked with the PM and engineer. We starting from the brainstorm together and all the way to present a live prototype to our customer within 8 days. So that project made me think, oh, maybe it's a time to change. I don't know. Maybe it's a time like we wanted to talk about, to discuss with our community. So I keep talking with my internal colleagues. What do you think AI can do for us? Do you have the kind of a concern? And also I joined a couple of different communities to try to get this answer. So here I am today. So I wanted to talk with a broader audience. What do you think AI can bring to me, and how AI can reshape the UX design pace? Yeah, this is the title of our content today. So a little bit of agenda of today. First question, just like you guys mentioned, what do you think about AI? Is AI going to replace us? And next, we want to also talk about, since the expectation has already changed from all the stakeholders, and what is the old workflow we have? It's the old workflow fits to the new expectations. So we want to cover a little bit about the old workflow, what is a new workflow, and where AI can help us. And also last part, we wanted to talk a little bit about the speed versus quality, and also leave some time to you guys if you have questions. First and foremost, the question, what do you think about AI? Because we are at this kind of age of AI. Everybody's talking about AI. Do you think AI is going to replace us? We kind of have this discussion within our team. We also hosted another different workshops to trying to get this answer, trying to hear from other designers within my company, and we kind of hear two kind of different voice. Some people said, "Oh no, this kind of negative. Yes, AI is going to replace us." Why they think us like that? I'm going to explain a little bit, but some of my content colleagues say, no, AI is never going to replace us, just like Evan thought, because we also still need to human in the loop for all of the designs. Even AI is trying to help us. So what do you think? You can just leave your questions or your thoughts to our community. We can talk about that later in the end. But no matter what you think, is AI going to replace us, or is AI going to help us? The expectation, if you observed, is already changed. The expectation is coming from the stakeholder. stakeholder, I mean the PMs, the engineers, the expectation is coming from all the companies. You can observe all these big tech companies. They want you to make the design quick, fast, and deliver all your artifacts and fast. And also all the, if you can observe, before that, we have the different roles. We have PM, we have the designers, we have the engineers. Everybody is working on their own artifacts. PM is drafting their documents, and UX is delivering their artifacts, design artifacts, and engineer is coding. But now you can observe each different role actually wear a different kind of hats. PM also drafting some mockups, and the UX also need to understand the requirements. If there is not every team has a PM, and also the engineer, they can just using some of the AI tools drafting some mockups. So there is a question to say, is everybody can be a designer of using some AI tools? For example, we have a lot of AI tools are using, can generating some of the visuals like Figma Make. So if I'm not sure about your company, if you observe some of the PM, they are trying to, after drafting a document, they're trying to have some visuals to help the other stakeholders to understand what is the requirements, to visualize it, even have some mockups. So the expectation has already changed, and no matter if the AI is going to replace us, what do you think, is AI going to replace us or not? So that means the old collaboration workflow, as I mentioned, in the past, the collaboration from PM, the UX engineer, the stakeholders, they are kind of siloed, right? We could spend weeks or months based on the size of your project. For each of the steps, PM could draft the requirements, like product requirements or business requirements for weeks or months. And after that, we'll review with our customers representative and also internally with all the stakeholders. And after we review and we decide and we align that, yes, that's the feature and that's the product we're going to build, then we'll move to the UX design phase. We will go through all the process of our UX design. We'll do the user research and then draft the low-fi design and iterate it based on all the feedback all the way to hi-fi design. After we usability testing, even the hi-fi design, then we probably will hand over to our engineer team. And engineer team will spend also like months or weeks, again, based on the size of the project to launch the final project of the product, the feature. So as I mentioned, this is a cycle for almost each of the steps. PM, UX engineer, could spend weeks or months for each of the steps. Makes this collaboration workflow could be months or weeks to deliver a project. But so the design process that we have is based on everybody knows the double diamonds design process that we have. As a designer, when we reach to our phase, we will define the problem, discover the problem, define the problem, and then design, and also iterate based on the feedback and the customer feedback and the stakeholders feedback, and all the way to deliver our designs. This is like traditional. This is our design process we're using like a daily basis. But in the AI, age, based on the project, my team and I are working together. It's changed, completely changed, and also from the expectation of the stakeholders changed. How it changed? I'm going to use a real case example. So it's changed from the siloed in different phases, from the PM, UX, and engineer to a more deeply collaboration workflow. The PM and UX and engineer could work very closely from the very beginning all the way to deliver the project. The very beginning could be, we don't even have requirements. It's completely starting from scratch and brainstorming together and drafted the requirements together and brainstorm about the design together and then to deliver to our engineer. So I'm going to use a real example that we have. The last quarter of our project, we got a requirement from our customer. It's an internal project and it's an internal enterprise project. And usually the project is like 3 months long because mostly it's like an enterprise project, very complex. Usually we'll spend maybe weeks to learn all the domain knowledges. For example, what is a GRC, government control and risk? What is the account reconciliation? All of this, accounting terminologies and enterprise terminologies. And after that, then we'll go through the traditional process from the PM drafting requirements and review with the stakeholders and customers, and then we'll hand over to the design. Design will depend on what do we have from the PM, right? Do we have the personas, user research, all of this to decide if we want to go through the full circle research to our design phase, or we'll start from the design phase. So usually what I wanted to say is we'll spend months to deliver a project. For this project specifically, we'll spend 3 months. But for that project, we are competing with another third party too, which means we don't have that time. So the requirements from our leadership and mean the expectation from our stakeholders is say, can we have a project or can we have a proof of concept of product in 1 week so that we can win the pitch with our third-party tools? So me and my PM and engineers, we spent together to say, how can we make this happen, even with these AI tools? What we did is we brainstormed together on a Friday afternoon. And we dragged our customer into a conference room, and we talked with our customer to gather the feedback. After that, we spent some time because me and my engineer team are, completely new to that project. We spent our entire afternoon to understand all the terminologies and all the domain knowledge from that enterprise project. And then each day in the following week, what we did is in the morning, we will brainstorm together with using some AI tool to draft the requirements and to iterate the requirements together with our PM. Of course, the PM is the lead of the document drafting. And after that, in the noon time, I will using some AI tool to explore the design idea. And after we having some, mock-ups, ideations, we'll think with our customer in the afternoon and then hand over to our engineer team. They also using some AI tool to, coding or developing. And then we have some daily basis sync with our customer to iterate and to do the iteration every single day. And then in the following up Friday, we just presented to our customer leadership. And finally, we won this page compared with our third-party tool. So what we did and where we use the AI is our PM and use the AI tool to draft the requirements. And also after my PM actually used the Figma Make, not just to draft the requirements, also have some visualization because it's enterprise and complex tool to try to articulate what is the tool in his mind to tell the engineer and to tell me what he think the tool should be looks like. Of course, it's not like the final design it's not the purpose of the final design. It's just to help us to understand because we have very tight timeline. After that, I will just do my exploration by using some Figma Make. And then I'll hand over to think with my customer and hand over to the coding. And my engineer team, they also use some AI tool to just pull over all the designs, all the design mockups through an AI tool with the coding. At the end of the day, when we pitch and present to our customer leadership, it's a live prototype. So we finished a project within 8 days, starting from scratch. We usually it's like a 3 months launch a project. So where AI helped us and where AI can help us within my experience. Based on the design process that we have, I actually used the AI to use discovery and research. I recently used AI for one of my usability testing with my customer, and they help using some AI to draft the usability testing plan. And also after conducting user research, and just through all my user research meeting minutes and into AI to help me draft a summary, and also usability testing, usability study and usability testing report. After that, I will just review with the stakeholders to say this is help me increase the productivity and efficiency. So the discovery and research phase, AI can help us for the interview, synthesis, and the survey analysis, pattern direction, and competitive reviews. But still need us to ask the right question. Even we have AI to help us draft the usability testing plan, but what are the right questions for us to ask? And also the context and emotion. When we conduct the usability testing, we probably need to observe our customers. It's not that AI can help us from the text perspective. Next, when we move to the design phase where AI can help us is, I actually asked this question to some of my colleagues. Do you use AI, or do you think AI can help you to design something? I got a whole bunch of different response. Some of my team to say, oh, I don't think AI right now is mature enough for me to just generate some design and then I can use it directly, especially when we have some design system and the AI tool is not integrated with our own design system. So it's hard to use all the designs that AI generated for us. But one interesting response I got from my colleague is, yes, I quite think AI can help us as long as I can provide the right prompts to AI, also give long enough prompts to AI. But the thing is, I need more time to give the AI correct prompts than I need to design it myself. So maybe right now AI is not mature enough for me to use, but maybe in the future AI can help us. So I got whole different different response from my colleagues. But what AI can help me for now at least is I can use some AI to do some exploration for the early stage of the design. But the thing is, as I mentioned, most of the design is not, it's kind of like a more generic, not give you especially for the complex enterprise products, it's not very specific based on your requirements and domains. And after the design phase, next phase is testing and iteration. During this phase, how AI can help us is, in my daily basis, actually, I use AI to do the heuristic evaluation. I would just throw some AI mockups to AI to say, okay, can you give me some feedback and audit for the screen? It's actually pretty good, but also it can give me faster feedback circles. But still, I need to, based on all the feedbacks I have, and draft the heuristic evaluation docs to my project. But okay, last part I wanted to talk is the speed versus quality. Remember the question that we have, do you think everyone can be a designer with the AI tool, especially some of the internal tool, my colleagues, the PMs already just using AI to generate some of the design. And without the consultation, or they just use it and build the product. Some of the team just build some, generated some mockups and using UX designer as a consulting team and to do some consultation for us. But I think maybe the customer-facing product will be better. They still need the UX design to have a great and we thought through product and the UX. But still, the faster shaping is not equal to the better UX, right? And like I mentioned, as of now, at least the AI tool, when they generate some of the design, they cannot just customize or based on the very specific requirements that we have. More of the AI tool, when they generate, for example, one of the dashboard, I asked the AI tool to give it to me. No matter is entertainment product dashboard or accounting product dashboard, looks the same. And also the logic behind each of the UX decision is lost from the AI tool. So it's what we can say. Right now, AI is just to accelerate our thinking, not going to replace it. All right, then that's about my question. If you have any questions, just leave your question. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kristen. It was really interesting. I love it. It's kind of augmenting our intelligence, not replacing us. So it's a nice positive bit to end on, rather than the doom and gloom that sometimes can come up. I'd love to know your thoughts, because in that example, I thought it was great how you kind of showed the compression. So it would usually take 3 months, and then you were given 8 days or 1 week, as you said. What are your thoughts on having gone through that? Do you think it's better to go with that really accelerated timeline, but then give yourself another little bit of time to iterate and improve? And do you think that's a quicker and better way of working versus doing more of that traditional upfront research and work? What's your opinion after having gone through it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for that situation, when we have to, when we had to come up with something because we are, kind of like a pitch our idea to our customer, so that they can decide either go with us or with the third party too. So we had to come up with something. So in some of the cases, we're facing kind of the same, like a similar situation, right? We have to come up with something of the design, or starting from scratch with the PM or engineer to deliver something to our customer to earn the trust. But the traditional way, after we pitched our product to our customer, and then win the pitch, then we need to come back later to see if this design is the best design we have, and maybe we'll go through some of the process that we have in that as a traditional way, and also listen to our customers and more detailed design. But AI at least give us a way, or give us an opportunity, so that we can quickly come up with something in a very short time. That's what I want to say.
Excellent. So it kind of supports it. But if you were given the choice, I'm just going to put you on the spot now. If you were given the choice on your next project, did you enjoy that kind of accelerated timeline, or are you more in belief of like it's a higher quality output if you put that work in up front?
I would say it's really depends on the project. Some of the project, and also like I mentioned, from the expectation of the stakeholder, right? It's changing right now. They want us to. I talked with some on that team. They're saying, okay, US is kind of slow because the engineer team are right now they're using AI tool right after the requirements, and then I can build something right after and show to my customer. I cannot wait 4 months for you guys to come up with some mock-ups. So I guess we don't have a lot of choice. This is like a new age for us. But as I mentioned, it really depends on if for some like a project, more generic project, maybe we can use that. But if like a complex one, probably we have to go back after we show the concept, the idea, then we'll have to go back and to dig deeper to learn more from our customer.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'd like to also touch on, you mentioned at one point that, and it's this challenge of the experienced people. Like you said, okay, I don't think it's quite ready, or there was another person saying it takes me longer to get the output I want with prompting and going back and forth versus just doing it myself.
Yeah.
But it is a challenge with the tools. I've noticed personally, I'm looking more, I'd say, on the dev side than I am on the design side. But I've noticed that shift, and I've noticed a lot of people as well on the dev side are saying it was around December that there was a new model released, and that was the shift for them. And I've noticed that myself, where it's actually a lot quicker for the AI to do it than me. Do you think that point is coming soon for design, or do you think we're still quite a bit away from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually why I'm here. I wanted to hear everybody's thoughts. Yeah, as I mentioned, I talked with my internal team, and we have different we have different thoughts. Like some may like very negative, and some is very positive. Think no, even with the AI, tools still need people human in the loop for the design process. But what I think as of now, what I can say, I cannot to say for the future, but as of now, I think the AI tool is not mature enough, especially for if your requirements are very complex and the logic between the product is not there yet. Maybe they can come up with some beautiful mockups and using some general design systems and generated some mockups, but the logic behind is a screen and the information architecture of the products are not there yet. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think it was in Evan's presentation where he mentioned magic patterns. I don't know if you've experimented. I know they've marketed, I haven't tested it. They market a feature where you can load in your components, so load in your kind of design system, and it will use that. Have you been experimenting with those types of things?
Yeah, we tried some of the, again, just like the response from my colleagues, we spend a lot of time to try to integrate because we have our own design system, and try to integrate our own design system with that AI too, because we also have some internal tool, from our company. We're now allowing you to the external one, but it's spent quite a lot of time and effort as of for now. So just like the response from my colleagues, I'd rather to doing by myself or you just giving the AI some prompts is taking me or more effort and much longer of time.
So it's great for that kind of, as you mentioned, really rapid trying different ideas and rapid kind of prototyping to help you kind of shape your thoughts. But then it's ultimately up to you to go and make it better, aligned with your product, more coherent, all of those kind of items.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's kind of leads us to time. So I really enjoyed both of the talks today. It's kind of scary how quickly this field is moving, but it's great to see how different people are approaching it and adopting it. So just want to thank you, Kristen, and thanks to Evan as well for sharing everything today.
Yep, thank you.
So that brings us to an end for our session today. But if you did like the talks and the concept of what we're doing, UXDX is all about bringing together a cross-functional team. So while we were very focused on design today, we also talk about the research, product management, and dev at our conferences that we run in New York and in Berlin, which are coming up in May this year. So if you like that concept and you want to hear more, please do consider joining us at one of those events. And if not, I just want to thank once again Evan and Kristen for sharing their stories, and thank you for joining us. And look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thank you.